Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today, we're going to talk about breakups when your partner just drops the hammer on you. What do I mean by that? I'll get into it. I got a story to unpack. If you have a story you want to unpack, go to writemac.com, send it in. Could unpack it in a public video just like this, or if you'd like to book a live coaching session. Commercial is over. So, after doing this for a while and reading different stories and talking to people around the world about their breakups and unpacking them and getting deeper and deeper, this story has a similar outline to a lot of stories in that basically this individual had an identity change, and I've talked about that before, and that's probably one of those things that if I was going to go with a generalization, which I don't like generalizations because they're done way too much on the internet now, and somehow people like to group themselves in. It's a lazy way of making the world an easier place to navigate, and sometimes we just want to put ourselves in a box and say, oh, that applies to me. But someone changing their identity, who they are and what they're about in the middle of a relationship that's been 4, 5, 6, 7 years, because it's usually not the case. Usually these breakups that come up within 1 year, 2 years, there's something that comes up. If it's within a year, you just didn't really know them that well. So, some people take longer to get to know than others. Some people think of themselves as these, I have great intuition, or I'm a great people reader. I believe in myself in that regard also. I've been told by other people I'm good at that. By the way, if you get enough compliments about something that you do well, then you should take a look at that and go, wow, that's something that people have told me that I respect, that I'm really good at. Just coming up with stuff that you think you're good at that no one's ever actually said, yeah, that's true. That's for another show. But getting back to this, I think that this is probably if I had to go with the number one thing that happens with relationships, probably in their 20s to 30s, but actually when you're older, it can happen also, is an identity change. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Roller Girl, Eve, welcome. Yindi, as we say in Thailand, which means welcome. The identity change, it's one of those things, you've heard of it, you kind of know what it is. But I've actually had a client that I did live coaching with that was in college. And a lot of times when you first come to me and you break down what's going on, I'm listening, I'm taking mental notes, literally. And I get in my head what's going on and why, but sometimes when I'm giving you, some ideas or some reasons these things might be happening, a lot of times people are just more concentrated in that first time, but they need to vomit out their feelings, what's going on, and I get that. But in a lot of cases, I plant some seeds. What do I mean by that? I go, well, this is probably a case of identity change. I explain what that means, but then they go on and on about their breakup, which is what I'm there for, to listen. It's highly therapeutic. But this one client came back to me and goes, what did you mean by identity change again? What did you mean by that? So I re-clarified it. I went back through it. And basically, anytime someone gets a new job, a new set of friends, a new wardrobe, a new genre of music, there is a possibility that they're going to take on a new identity. And identity really steers who you are. And it's one of those things, whenever someone says, I am, Listen up. It's an identity statement. They're going to make that true over and over again. If someone says, I'm trash, as hard as that is to hear, they're going to make that true. Now, they think somehow that's just been bestowed upon them. They believe that's not in their control or in their power. But really, somewhere along the lines, their actions, the attention they've received has made them think that they're trash. And it's not so simple for you to go, oh, you're not trash, you're a good person, you're this. It's really not that simple, right? And actually, one of the other things I've learned from identity statements and identity choices, because actually, as you get older, they're choices. They're choices that you make as an identity. You think, if you're not up on this, you kind of believe, oh, I'm just that way, myself included. I've battled one identity statement. I'm not good with technology, or I guess electronics, as archaic as that sounds. And it's just not true. It's just something that my father was that way. I didn't like computers very much when I was young. And I know someone else like this that's an older guy. Not that I'm older. But he goes, oh, I'm a tech phobe, man. I'm a tech phobe. So he's saying he's actually scared of technology. He won't do anything with technology. But at the same time, he's always accusing people of ripping him off for building websites and different things like that. The reality is we can pretty much learn to do anything else that another human being can do. Now, when you get to the point where you're looking at things where someone could do something faster, yeah, that's true. Some people learn quicker. Some people have an affinity to process quicker. That's true. But your ability to learn most things is there. So in this story today, though, it's your classic case where there was an identity change. And guess what? Newsflash. Identities change. It's a hammer that drops. It's a hammer that drops in the relationship because you go, wait a minute. This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't the person I fell in love with. And you changed. I don't like it. But what happens before the hammer drops is there's some hints. There's some comments that kind of made you feel like, ugh, I didn't like that. I don't like that viewpoint, right? But along the way, you still don't think, we're going to break up. You kind of just think like, let me complain about this. Let's argue a little bit. Yeah, I'm noticing these things, but we're not really going to break up. And then the hammer drops. And you go, wait a minute. There's no evading really an identity change. Because if the identity change doesn't line up with you and who you are to them, in other words, if they're changing in a way, a classic example is a couple that might be out of shape or not really into fitness and exercise and healthy eating. And one person takes it up. And the other person despises their partner for doing so. They go, oh yeah, you're just one of those healthy. Oh yeah, they make fun of you for being healthy. They make fun of you for exercising a lot, right? And they think to themselves, well, this relationship, that's going to affect things. It's going to affect things big times. And then they go, oh my God, I can't believe we broke up. And then they'll overcompensate out of the breakup and be like, okay, I'm ready to make some of those changes. Only it's not genuine. It's for the partner. And it just never works that way. And this is, like I said, it's just one of those things that comes up again and again and again. And it's brutal when that hammer drops. When all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a minute. We were good together. Wait a minute. I liked the way you were before. Wait a minute. Who's this friend you're hanging out with all the time that's getting into your head? Wait a minute. I know what happened here. You were influenced by your coworkers. Here's the thing. Could be true, but it doesn't change the fact that that person likes the new identity or wants to try it on for a little while. All right, folks, I got 5 on deck, 2 likes. Thank you very much. I'm going to start the story right now. I'm glad I got a few more people on deck. Yesterday, I went on live. I haven't been on live for a long time, and there was one person on the live stream for a bit. And I was wondering, is there something wrong here? Roller Girl says, a new haircut? Are you talking about a new identity? Well, it's kind of funny because a lot of women post-breakup, correct me if I'm wrong, Roller Girl, will get a haircut. They might even just cut their hair. They just want something new, and that's them going, I want to start something new. And you'll often find out of a breakup, you'll play with new ideas, new looks. You'll think about things. All right, so here's the story. If you have a story you want to send in, go to rightmac.com. The link's above. Send it in, and I could get back to you on a public YouTube response like this. The private video response is still available, but not for long. If you want to do a live coaching session, let's do it. Hello, here's my story. I'm 43 and my ex is 35. We've had a wonderful run. She was a soulmate, and I believe she still is. Okay, so that is one of those things. If you've watched my show or listened to me before, I don't believe necessarily in a soulmate. If you want to believe in soulmate, make it with an S, because it's an extremely limited thought process. It's romantic, it's sweet, it's fairy tale-ish, if that's a word. But realistically, that's just something you've come up with to put that person on a pedestal. And maybe it served you at some point to, you know, have an unconditional love for them and whatnot. But if the world has soulmates, it's with an S, right? Right? Rick says, if she cuts her hair, dyes it, she's usually going through some shit. I agree. Rick, I agree. It's just not uncommon, right? And what is that a signature of? That's a signature of I'm gonna change. Now, this just sparked a thought, Rick. Good to see you're on deck, bro. This just sparked a thought. I remember when I had my horrible breakup eons ago, having a dream. And if you've had a bad breakup before, you know that you have these weird dreams. I mean, most people tell me, and even when people say, oh, I don't dream that much, somehow you get some crazy dream after a breakup. I've heard this again and again. People don't even really share them. And I had a dream about my ex. Jeez. And she was with 2 or 3 different guys, not in that dirtiest of ways, but the way I remember it, yeah, I ran into her. It was like she was drinking with these people, having a lot of fun. And it was almost like, looking back, I don't know how I was there, because it was almost like I was a spectator, because I wasn't involved in the partying, but I think it was like her and like 2 or 3 other guys, and the 2 or 3 other guys, I knew them, but they weren't friends. And there was nothing dirty going on, if you know what I mean, Rick. But she's just getting drunk with guys, right? And I'm just like, oh God, this is horrible, as I'm watching it in the dream. And then there was some kind of scene where she was like in her clothes in a bathtub washing herself. And so I went to someone that knows a little bit about dreams, and they just basically said, yeah, you think she's dirty. Makes sense, right? At that point, I wasn't thinking she was my soulmate. It was more like, wow, you're going the wrong direction. And what I want to say about that, on the flip side, Rick knows about this, is when they go through these identity changes, right? Sometimes the identity's really bad in your eyes. You're like, wow, someone could be going down a good identity change that's healthy, like I mentioned before. Maybe it involves fitness. Maybe it involves making more money, hopefully in a noble and admirable way. But if it's in a bad way, where you think maybe they're going to be doing alcohol and drugs, or they're seeing a lot of people. That's really hard to deal with, because actually you're worried about them. And so you're entangled with their welfare. Angel Jimenez says, is it because you are thinking the worst? It depends on for one, it depends on your character and how you look at things anyways. But I think whatever dream you have is probably fueled by what I would call puzzle pieces. So the reason I probably had that dream is she was drinking a lot and partying a lot and going out. So there was something to it. It wasn't just a made up thing. So I think if you're going to be thinking the worst, there has to be some kind of evidence that your brain puts in place. Whether that's completely true or not is another question. What's up, Leandra? I think everyone tries to reinvent themselves after the breakup on both sides. And I don't think that's a bad thing. All right, let me get back to this story. She was my soulmate, and I believe she still is. I told her this, and she said I'm a dreamer. So that means that she didn't take it too seriously. We met at Disneyland about 5 years ago. Cool. She worked there, and I was taking my kid there. My kid is now grown. She immediately showed interest in me, and I thought this was love at first sight. Another thing, is there love at first sight? Maybe that's for another show. I definitely I've come across this before, and this idea. I know that in my own life, there's been moments where I knew I liked someone a lot initially. But for me personally, to use the word love takes a little bit of substance, dating, interaction. So love goes a little deeper for me. I would say, though, I have spotted a woman or met a woman somewhere, and I don't know why I'm instantly attracted to them, and think somehow that can be a deeper connection down the road. But I wouldn't call it love at first sight. Maybe it's just a deep attraction. I had been out of my divorce for over 3 years, and I was ready for some love in my life. Good for you. I asked her out. She seemed excited about the date. We texted a lot. She just had this bounce about her that I couldn't get enough of. I like that, bounce. I told her I loved her on the second date. Maybe you are a dreamer. Everyone has their own definition of love, folks. So someone will say, oh, that's too quick. Maybe for him. She giggled and said, okay, I was okay with that. Translation, she wasn't in love yet, so your feelings are higher at that point. That's okay. We were having fun. Fast forward a bit. She ended up moving in with me a year later. She loved my son, and he loved her. She ended up finishing up her master's degree in psychology. She wanted to become a social worker originally, and then somehow got hooked up with a coach counselor for the Hollywood stars. Well, that's a stark difference. She interned with this guy, and it really impressed her. So this is the beginning of the end, I'm betting. She was never a materialistic person, but she started to be more interested with the idea of making big money working with the stars. And this is how life changes. It's one change. When I met her, she didn't have a penny to her name and even was taking the bus to work. That being said, she was happy and responsible person. I know that she always valued my advice and counsel, as I had more wisdom of life than her. The interesting thing about wisdom is you don't have wisdom of everything. You actually have wisdom in certain departments. So you would maybe have a lot of wisdom in the department of finances, or she might have more wisdom in relationships. See the funny thing about that? You're 43, she's 35. I don't know how long you were married, but if you were, let's just say you were married from 21 to 30, and you hadn't had any partners in between that, your wisdom on relationships and women is probably just related to that marriage. Think about that for a minute. There's a lot of people out there that, oh, I know women, oh, I know relationships, and you've been in one. I know friends like this. They're not very seasoned. There's not a lot of wisdom there, but yet they're very successful, maybe at other things in their life. But then they get in a new relationship and they think that all relationships go the way their last relationship went. You follow me? So when he says I had a lot more wisdom in life than her, I would bet financially, maybe responsibility wise, but She knew that and would come to me for advice on any level of her life. I was happy that she trusted me so much. Then this job change came, and she started going out with new friends, taking new habits, and even buying new clothes. Identity change. Ironically, she has become a coach like you, but more of a life coach for the rich. Not a bad gig, I guess. She also started to try to coach me, and she even tried to get me to do things like ayahuasca, rock climbing, acrobat yoga. All right. Yeah. The idea that she's trying to involve you in those things means that she's still connected to you. She loves you and she cares about you. He writes on, I wasn't up for any of it. Wouldn't even give it a try, really. So this is where this happens a lot, where this is a turning point where someone goes, oh yeah, she wanted to do rock climbing. She wanted to do acrobat yoga and ayahuasca. I wasn't up for that. It's like, well, I mean, why weren't you up for it? I had a friend recently that was going through a split where they split up. They have kids together. And he did this. He was like, yeah, she said she just wants to get out of the house more and she wants to go for fucking hikes. I don't do that shit. And I was like, maybe you should try. What? It's like, if someone offers you ayahuasca, rock climbing, and acrobat yoga, right? And you're like, I'm not up for any of them. And you're like, your partner, your girlfriend, whatever, your boyfriend, whatever you're with. You don't have to do those things if you don't want to. But what I would say, if there's 3 of them or there's 2 of them, and you notice that someone's going through a change and you want to take that ride with them and they're inviting you to do these things, and you just automatically think they're crap because it's something you've never done before. If I were you at that point, go for it. You don't like it, fine. But when you get post breakup, you look at these moments and you go, wow, maybe I should have tried those things. That being said, you could go do those events, you could be doing those things, and you could go, this is just not me. I don't like it. I don't care for it. I'm not as excited about it. But I would say you should be meeting people halfway on the bridge sometimes. It wasn't up for thought. She was doing too much stuff with, I wasn't up for any of it and wouldn't even give it a try, really. I was happy being a cyclist for years, and I felt like I've never tried to make you a cyclist. Interesting point. I guess where I went wrong is when I complained and whined that I thought she was doing too much stuff without me. Wham, right? This is highly unattractive. This is attraction 101. But on the flip side, she did invite you. I've had this happen to me in a relationship before where my ex started doing new things, or my current girlfriend at the time started doing new things, and I was being invited to do them. And I was like, no. And it just got us further and further apart. She comforted me and said I was still important to her, but she was going through some changes in her life and thought it was best if she moved out. I was not expecting this. Dun. That's when the hammer dropped. I immediately got angry, which surprised her. She started bringing up that maybe I was projecting past wounds from childhood and abandonment issues. This is where her psychology degree and her master's psychology degree comes in. And then what interesting thing about this is when you have a partner that's a therapist or a psych major, stuff like that, sometimes they like to bring this stuff up. And it might even be true. But sometimes you don't want to hear it from your partner. So this can become a problem. I told her to cut the psychology shit. Again, that's part of her identity, right? She got a master's degree in it. She's an expert in it. She then said, look, I want to have fun. Honestly, things aren't the same. You don't like the things I like to do. I said, well, that's okay. I don't make you go cycling. She responded, I know. She told me I just felt like it was time. It was time to let you go and spread her wings. Let me go. It was time for you to let me go and spread my wings. That I had played an important part in her life, but things change, people change, and that's a good thing. You came into my life at the right time, she says, and I believe we're soulmates and still are. She used your language. That's smart psychology. And that doesn't mean we have to live together forever. This really confused me. because your definition of soulmates is different than hers. And by the way, that was very clever of her to use the same language, because that's something you believe in. And this is where words have different definitions to different people. And that's why it confused you, because you're like, soulmates would live together forever. She said she'll always love me and that we could still see each other, but she just no longer wanted to live together. I told her to get out. I got angry. I was hurt, and that's how I am when I get hurt. Well, a lot of people are like that. They want to hurt who hurts them. She cried and got her stuff, and that was that. The next day I called her to apologize, and she said she wasn't interested in talking at this point because she could see I was being highly emotional, and that it's best I find someone to talk to. She recommended some people. Again, this is a psychology major in play. I wasn't ready for that, so I went to YouTube and found you. I just want her back. What do you suggest? First and foremost, maybe we'll book a live coaching session with myself and fully unpack this, because it's really a different level when we unpack some things. But if an individual is going through an identity change and she says clearly what she said to you, she's basically saying that the relationship's no longer fun. She's been feeling this way for a while. She wants to move out. And here's the thing. There's a possibility of getting back together, but not anytime soon. And she needs to spread her wings, her words. And she needs to feel like, I'm trying what it's like to be single. Now, that's not going to be very soothing to your ears. But once someone commits to the idea that I need to see what it's like to be single, I want to have more fun, the best way to deal with that is to be like a river. Don't try to dam her up. Now, that's counterintuitive because you're like, wow, I'm going to lose her. There's a possibility. The best action is to accept it. Do not allow yourself to see her regularly or talk regularly, because it sounds like she still wants a piece of you. She still wants to see you. She still wants to be validated by you. She still sees value in you. She needs to feel what it's like to not have any of you. And there is a there is a possibility that she doesn't come back. But on the flip side, this is you starting to, and people don't want to hear this right away, but if you want her to really feel the void, then you go, hey, look, I thought about it. You're right. You have gone through some changes, and you want to move out. You want to see what it's like. I'm going to accept that. And I had a client, actually, totally different situation, but it was beautiful. I shared this a while ago on a live stream. He had a breakup, and the funny thing is, he was hurting inside. He was pissed off. He was upset. He divulged some things in the email to me, but he wrote her back with an acceptance that was just so fucking clean. It was so clean because there was no malice. There was no blaming. He used her words back to her, and he basically said, look, you feel this way. I'm going to accept it, and I wish you all the best, and no, we won't be in contact. And he cut her off right there. 3 weeks later, she was back. Now, here's the thing. He contacted me recently. Now it's been months later. She wants to get married again. He's not sure. My point is, when you want your ex back, what terms do you want him back on? A lot of times people in these situations go, well, pity will work. Well, pity will work. Like how, or making them feel guilty will work. No. That'll work as a shortcut, but it won't allow the other person to get what they want. Right now, she wants to see what it's like being single. She wants to play. And you know what? If you've been together for, I think you said 5 years, and it was really good, it's going to be hard to duplicate what you had. Now, if you wean her off the relationship and allow her to, like we could still see each other. Translation, I still want to see you. I still have feelings for you, but I just want to live on my own. If you do that, okay, in some cases, maybe it works and maybe she, but in reality, once someone moves out from living with each other, it's hard to move back in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, That's a big leap down from where you were at as partners, right? It's almost like divorce. If people are going to get divorced, they're usually not going to get back together anytime soon. Is it possible? It's usually years later. I'm not saying if you had a 5-year relationship where you live together that you can't get back together. But she needs to see what it's like. And she needs to know what it's like to just have none of you. So you need to drop the hammer on her. And it'll surprise her. It'll surprise her. And when you do stuff like that, a lot of women aren't used to it, and men. So usually when people break up with someone and someone's not happy with it and they want them back, the other person senses that. They feel that. They like it. They like it subliminally. They like it because they feel like back of their head, I have an option to get back with this person. And they really love and care about me, and they still value me in a high way. But on the outside, it'd be like, I feel really bad about this. Deep down, they feel like we can get back together if I wanted to. And if you drop the hammer and you go, nope, no mas, no mas, as the great Roberto Duran once said, if you do that, you have the opportunity to possibly switch the tables, and the person goes, wait a minute, this wasn't part of my plan. I wanted to still see you sometimes. No, you said you wanted a new life. You wanted to live on your own. And I'm saying, I accept that, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. So, you say I was a soulmate. You say you still love me. See what it's like without none of me. And then if that person does come back, they're usually all in. That's the difference. If you get someone back due to pity or to making them feel bad, or even like, and I've done this before, you see each other once a week or twice a week. And by the way, in some of the cases that I've had, it's some of the best intimacy because you missed each other, right? But if you keep that distance long enough where you see each other here and there and you play this pitter-patter back and forth, someone's going to end up meeting someone else, and then the hammer drops again. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were probably getting back together, right? So I only got a few more minutes left. Does anyone have any questions on the live stream? Never go back. Smokey the cat, not to be confused with Smokey the bear. Never go back to an ex, either your fault, theirs, or both. It's a sign you need to move on. Everything has an ending. Everything. Well, I say never. I think that every individual case is different. I think that there are situations where you can go back to an ex if the circumstances are right. I believe though, if someone breaks up with you, you got to find a way to accept it. And you got to find a way to cut off contact with that individual if your interactions with them are hurting you or making you feel bad. I just had a live coaching session with a past client. Came to me originally 2 or 3 years ago, and then now is in a new breakup, and was telling me some of the things that I told him still resonate with him. And he recently had a situation where this interaction, he took a moment, and this is really big. Take a moment and go, how do I feel after I interact with this person? Is it making me upset? Is it making me needy or anxiety packed? If that's the case, you got to cut off contact for a little bit. You got to keep them out of your zone. In every relationship, if you pay attention closely, there will always be a bait and switch. Was hoping you'd get on today. Right on, Skinner. Warriors are the proud owner of the 7th and 14th pick. I'm pretty excited about that. If you don't date your women, someone will come along and date them for you. Relationships are about choices and trade-offs. I agree that relationships are about choices and trade-offs. You can coach, but you shouldn't. What do you mean by that, Smokey the Cat? I'm intrigued. If you don't date your woman, I hear this statement a lot, Rick, and I'm a little perplexed by it sometimes, because I think it goes both ways. I understand the logic in it, but I will say this, Rick. Knock him out the box, Rick. I will say this. Even if you do date him, if your partner and you are checked out, if you're bored, because I've been in relationships of 5 years, 7 years, and you're still going on dates, you're still doing things, but it's not as fun. It's not as fun. And you just feel like when you guys go out to dinner or you do things, you just can't get into a groove of what it was like when you first went out. And I wonder if that's because of both of you. I wonder if that's, you know what I mean? Like, you could still be that person where you set up cool things to go do and they're just like, no. Or you could still be attempting to date your wife and do fun things, and it's just not there. And I'm starting to wonder if a lot of it's almost like step by step, Rick, in the sense that if you're together for 4, 5, 6 years and you don't have kids, or you don't get married, or you don't have like a next step, is it bound to get stale? Or you don't move somewhere new? Like, there's no new mountaintop to go up to? You kind of settled into your job. You're settled into your job. You guys are, doing okay. I think kids aren't always the best thing for everyone, but it provides some kind of unity. I only got a few more minutes, Clutch, so I'm a firm believer that it goes both ways. Yeah. I've heard that before, where a lot of people go, if you got to learn how to date her, or you got to keep dating your wife. Sometimes people will make like a big effort, and this happens a lot with intimacy too. They'll make a big effort, right? Like, okay, I'm going to take out my wife for dinner, and then afterwards we're going to go to miniature golf, or we're going to do something cute or fun that we used to do, whatever. And then you go out and the wife's like, I hate this restaurant. Or you're taking me to miniature golf? Really? It's like, what then? Right? Because sometimes even if you try the dating thing, there's some guy that she works with at the medical office that she works out, or the retail place that she's into. So I get the point as I'm stuttering. But also it doesn't guarantee. Mac, if you trust is broken, but the person shows remorse and is doing and saying the right thing, but is filled with guilt and is in the bad headspace and wants to work on things, how do you handle it? Well, I think that if trust is broken and it's something that was broken on something that's out of character, or you believe it's not something they've done repeatedly, then you can give them the benefit of the doubt. If someone shows remorse and says the right things to apologize, that's the best case you can hope for, right? I mean, and then, but then you got to deal with the fact, can you let it go? Right? I've never witnessed someone admitting to me that they've cheated on me. I don't know how that feels. But every individual, it's up to them. If you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but they definitely need to be showing remorse, sorrow, and a genuine apology. And you need to feel like that's not in their character. That's just something that they made a mistake on. But then if you got to, keep a file on that. And if it happens again, you're done. I meant you can go back to your ex, but one shouldn't. You're a great coach. Thanks, Smokey. At times I want my ex back. I miss him, but I can't trust that he's moving in the same direction. Has he changed enough to understand enough with himself? We can both grow again together. You guys were together a long time, if I remember correctly, Leandra, so you know better than I do. I'm a firm believer that it goes both ways. Clutch, you're in my background noise. I look at the spreadsheets. Should I cut contact with my ex-parents-in-law? Short answer, yes. They are valuable people. Even the breakup was 3 years ago. With them was the hardest part of the breakup. I think if it was 3 years ago and you're kind of over your breakup, I think that you could talk to them. By the way, every time I make a pepperoni pizza, I think about you. Really? I love pepperoni pizza, man. If I ever make it out to Mexico, I'll definitely get a pizza at your place. I think people don't know how to stay in long-term committed relationships anymore. Rick, we should have a talk about that, bro. Maybe I'll email you because it's an interesting subject, right? There's something to that. Social media has ruined traditional relationship, my beliefs. Oh, well, it's ruined more than that, but yeah. Yeah, we'll have to book one of those and have an adult conversation about that. And by the way, I would add that it doesn't help. I was just telling a client recently, I got to go, but it doesn't help with all the content that's online trashing women. This Fresh and Fit podcast, right? If you guys seen that, I might even just do a show on that. How do you handle no contact in cases where your person wants you to be vulnerable with them? Yeah, let's do it, Rick. It's an interesting topic, bro. How do you handle no contact in cases where your person wants to be vulnerable? Well, the thing about when people want someone to be vulnerable, are they being vulnerable? I've come across this with women a lot. Oh, he's not vulnerable enough. What does that mean? Get specific. Give me examples. That's a broad statement. And sometimes I've come across people that make those accusations. They just want everyone to show their cards. Email, I want to hear what you think about Kev. Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. All right, folks, I do got to go. It's been good. I'm glad I got some people on deck. Yesterday, I had one person on deck. I just had to come back and see if I still have an audience. All right, folks, take it easy. Skinner, I'm going to get you on a live stream at some point. Email me, bud. We're going to talk some NBA. Take it slow, folks. Curtains.